Shalom, brothers and sisters. Grace, mercy, and peace be unto you from YAHUAH the Father and Yahushua our Mashiach, his voice. Hear, O YAHUAH. YAHUAH our mighty one is one YAHUAH. This is Brother David coming to you again to bring you the daughters of SHARAH. This is part 8, SHARAH. That is the correct transliteration of Sarah's name. In the passages in which we shall read today, I saw that YAHUAH changed her name from SHARAH, S-A-R-A-I, to SHARAH, S-A-R-A-H, according to the European transliteration. So I went in to check for myself to see whether the transliteration was correct, and of course, it was wrong, because the first letter is a shin, gives you that shh sound. You may be asking, well, why didn't they just add the H? When they stole our book, they put it in Greek. When they put it in Greek, they had problems. In the Greek language, there is no shh sound. So they dropped the H and just said, Sarah. See how easy that was? Lost in transliteration. Now we're going to look at the most important woman in the book. You would think that Eve was? No. SHARAH was. She was highly favored. This is why if you take the example of SHARAH, and if you apply it to your life, you will be favored by YAHUAH also. He will speak well of you. What did SHARAH do? She called her husband Master. Simple, right? What else did she do? She was obedient to her husband in everything. Let's begin. Genesis chapter 16, verse 1 to 5. What I've done here is extracted all of the stories of Sarah from chapter 16 to chapter 23. It would be prudent for you to read the context. Verse 1. Now Sarah, Abram's wife, bare him no children, and she had a handmaid, an Egyptian, whose name was Hagar. Verse 2. And Sarah said unto Abram, Behold now, YAHUAH hath restrained me from bearing. Have you noticed that even in the book of Ruth, Naomi, now here Sarah, anything that happened to them in their life, they always said, YAHUAH did it. They never gave any credit to the devil. What do we do today? Something happens bad, we say, oh, Satan, the devil did that to you. No. They know who's in control. I pray thee, go unto my maid. It may be that I may obtain children by her. Note, isn't this what happened with Naomi? She obtained children or a child by Ruth. Ruth was the surrogate. Hagar is the surrogate. Hagar belongs to Sarah. It is her maid. It is her bond servant. Anything that comes out of Hagar's womb, who does it belong to? Sarah. And Abram hearkened to her voice. Verse 3. And Sarah, Abram's wife, took Hagar, her maid, the Egyptian. After Abram had dwelt 10 years in the land of Canaan, and gave her to her husband Abram to be his wife. Ladies, would you do something like this? Would you give your servant to your husband to be his wife? Remember now, Sarah is in the Hall of Fame of women that Yahuwah speaks well of. So this can't be wrong, can it? Verse 4. And he went in unto Hagar, and she conceived. And when she saw that she had conceived, her mistress was despised in her eyes. Hagar looked down upon Sarah. Sarah could not produce an heir. Sarah was inadequate. Sarah could not perform the duties of wife. Verse 5. And Sarah said unto Abraham, My wrong be upon thee. In other words, she said, My bad. I have given my maid into thy bosom. And when she saw that she had conceived, I was despised in her eyes. May Yahuwah judge between me and thee. Verse 6. But Abram said to Sarah, Behold, thy maid is in thine hand. Do to her as it pleaseth thee. And when Sarah dealt hardly with her, she fled from her face. Do you see how things work in the kingdom? Abram is the patriarch, but yet, when Sarah came to him with the complaint, he said, This is your maid. You can do to her whatever you want to do. Abram did not bypass protocol. Listen what Sarah did. She dealt hardly with her. She beat her. Why did she beat her? Because her servant disrespected her, and Sarah put her back in her place. What did Hagar do? She ran. Verse 7. And the angel of Yahuwah found her by a fountain of water in the wilderness, by the fountain in the way to Shur. Verse 8. And he said, Hagar, he called her by name. Sarah's maid, he called her by her position. Where are you coming from? And where are you going? And she said, I'm running from the face of my mistress. She probably told the angel everything. She beat me. She abused me. She tried to get sympathy from the angel. But listen to what he said. The messenger, that is. Verse 9. And the messenger of Yahuwah said unto her, Return to your mistress, and submit thyself under her hands. Did the angel bypass protocol? You see, we fall for foolishness because people come and complain to us, especially when it comes to children. They'll go from one parent and they'll go to the other and complain about the harsh treatment, and the parent will, oh, baby, and dote on them. You cannot do that. Do not bypass protocol. Verse 10. And the angel of Yahuwah said unto her, he gave her a promise, I will multiply thy seed exceedingly, that it shall not be numbered for a multitude. Let's jump to chapter 17, verse 15 to 19. Verse 15. And the mighty one said unto Abraham, As for Sarah, thy wife, thou shalt not call her name Sarah, but SHARAH shall her name be. So this is where Yahuwah changed her name. Abram's name was changed also from Abram to Abraham. Verse 16. And I will bless her. Have you heard about any other woman in the book where Yahuwah says he was going to bless this woman? Have you? And give thee a son also of her. Yea, I will bless her. He said it twice. to confirm his word. And she shall be a mother of nations. Wow. Kings of peoples shall be of her. Brothers and sisters, we are seed. Kings have come from us. When we were taken into captivity, there were kings, princes amongst us. We have been lowered to nothing. Our heritage, our customs is all lost. But this is why we're reading these stories. Everything in this book is about us. Do you see how Yahuwah has preserved our history in this book? Verse 17. Then Abraham fell upon his face and laughed. Can you picture it? You ever seen a person laughing so hard that they hold their stomach, fall to the ground, roll over, and said in his heart, he didn't say it in the open, shall a child be born unto him that is 100 years old? And shall Sarah, SHARAH, that is 90 years old, bear? Hey, this is rational thought, isn't it? He's 100 years old. His wife is 90. How is she going to have a child? Verse 18. And Abraham said unto the Mighty One, Oh, that Ishmael might live before thee. Do you see how we act when we are confronted with impossible situations? We start coming up with solutions of our own. The Mighty One is telling Abraham, I am going to do something spectacular. I am going to perform a miracle. I will open up your wife's womb, and she shall bear a son. But Abraham doesn't believe it because this is an impossible situation. So he says, well, why don't you let Ishmael be the one of the promise? Verse 19. And the Mighty One said, Sarah, SHARAH, thy wife, shall bear thee a son indeed. You better believe it. And thou shalt call his name Isaac. And I will establish my covenant with him for an everlasting covenant. Did he say for a few generations? This is everlasting. Here's the key, brothers and sisters. This is it. And with his seed after him. Did he say anything about converts? Anything about Christians? He said seed, bloodline. Where's the seed at? If you believe this book is the history of the children of Yasharah, you also know that in the history of the children of Yasharah, they are in captivity this day. Let's jump to chapter 18, verse 1. And the Lord appeared unto him in the plains of Mamre, and he sat in the tent door in the heat of the day. I have questions. Every time you see the Lord, it's a replacement for Yahuwah. Did Yahuwah himself appear unto Abraham? I thought it was said that only Moses did he speak face to face. If this is the case, that Yahuwah appeared unto Abraham in the plains of Mamre, then Abraham really spoke to him face to face. Verse 2, and he lifted up his eyes and looked, and lo, 3 men stood by him. Who are these 3 men? Is one of these 3 men Yahuwah himself? And when he saw them, he ran to meet them from the tent door and bowed himself towards the ground. Verse 3, and said, My Lord, my YAHUAH, if now I have found favor in thy sight, pass not away, I pray thee, from thy servant. So is this YAHUAH that he is speaking to? Because this would be face to face, correct? Or is it the angels of YAHUAH? Because there's three, the messengers of YAHUAH. Remember, brothers and sisters, we're reading a transliteration and a translation. A lot was lost in translating it from Hebrew into English. Do you think the Europeans had this thing perfected, the Hebrew? I think not. They added a lot of things here. They've taken a lot of things away. When you find that the angels go into Sodom and Gomorrah, only 2 went. What happened to the third one? Was the third one YAHUAH? I have a lot of questions on this issue. But this is about Sarah. Let's proceed. Verse 4, let a little water, I pray you, be fetched, and wash your feet, and rest yourselves under the tree. Does YAHUAH need to rest himself? Verse 5, and I will fetch a morsel of bread, and comfort ye your hearts, after these shall pass on, for therefore are ye come to your servant. And they said, so do as thou hast said. Verse 6, and Abraham hastened into the tent of Sarah. Let's get back to the primary focus, SHARAH. And said, make ready, quick, 3 measures of fine meal, knead it, and make cakes upon the hearth. Did he say pretty please? He gave a command. She carried it out. Verse 7, and Abraham ran unto the herd, and fetched the calf tender and good, and gave it unto a young man, and he hasted to dress it. Took out the inner parts, washed it, seasoned it, put it on the grill. Verse 8, and he took butter and milk, and the calf which he had dressed, and set it before them, and he stood by them under the tree, and they did eat. All 3 of them, correct? But look at what it says, butter, milk, and the calf. I've heard it said by the unlearned and the unstable that you cannot have butter, milk, and beef. Have you heard that? There's no place in the law where it says that. It says that you cannot seethe a kid in its own mother's milk, boil a goat in its own mother's milk. A goat is not a calf. So it's 2 different items. You have to stay with the letter of the law. You can't come from the imagination of your own mind. You have to check everything out. If it was unlawful, why did these 3 messengers eat it? And especially if one of them was supposed to be YAHUAH, he ate of it also after he has given a law that you can't do that? Well, he hasn't given the law yet, but still, it's written in the tablets in heaven. Verse 9, and they said unto him, where is Sarah thy wife? Why are they inquiring about Sarah? SHARAH. You see how important that she is? That the messengers had a word for his wife. And he said, behold, she's in the tent. Verse 10, and he said, I will certainly return unto thee according to the time of life. And lo, Sarah thy wife shall have a son. And Sarah heard it in the tent door which was behind him. So Sarah was spying. She was listening to the conversation at all times. Verse 11, And Abraham and SHARAH were old and well stricken in age. And it ceased to be with SHARAH after the manner of women. What ceased? She was in the menopause. Verse 12. Therefore SHARAH laughed within herself. She did not laugh outwardly. She laughed inwardly. Listen what she said to herself, saying, after I am waxed old, shall I have pleasure? And my master, being old also? Hey, Shakara, Mom is 86 years old. What do you think she would do if the mighty one told her that she was going to have a son at 86 years old? If my mother has any rational thoughts whatsoever, she's going to laugh too. Verse 13. And the Lord said unto Abraham, was it YAHUAH himself who spoke to him, or was it his messenger? Why did SHARAH laugh, saying, shall I of a surety bear a child which am old? Listen to this, Shakara. Hey, Mom, listen to this. Even in your 86 years old, is anything too hard for YAHUAH? You mean I'm going to have a brother, Mom? At the appointed time, I will return unto thee, according to the time of life, and SHARAH shall have a son. He has to tell them. How many times has he said it so far? They are human. Did you hear me? They're human. This is a human story. Verse 15. Then SHARAH denied, saying, I didn't laugh. She didn't laugh outwardly. She laughed inwardly. But why did she say that? Because she was afraid. How did they know that I laughed? I laughed inside. I didn't laugh outwardly. And he said, no, you did laugh. Let's jump to chapter 20, verse 1. And Abraham journeyed from thence towards the south country and dwelled between Kadesh and Shur and sojourned in Gerar. Verse 2. And Abram said of Sarah, his wife, she is my sister. And Abimelech, king of Gerar, sent and took Sarah. Note, when Abraham arrived in Gerar, he told them that Sarah was his sister. Once he said that she was his sister, the king himself took Sarah. Could it be that Sarah was just that beautiful? Yes, it could be. But here's something else also. He wanted to make an alliance with Abraham. The best way to make an alliance is for Abraham to give him his sister. They would be bound together in marriage. If Abraham went to war, Abimelech would be with Abraham. If Abimelech went to war, Abraham would be with Abimelech. He wanted to make a covenant between the two. Verse 3. But the mighty one came to Abimelech in a dream by night, and said to him, behold, you are dead man. For the woman which thou hast taken, for she is a man's wife. We know according to the law that a man that sleeps with another man's wife has committed adultery. Have you ever seen in the Bible where it says that a woman that sleeps with another woman's husband has committed adultery? We have not seen that. If a woman comes in, the man is married, he has a wife, and another woman comes in that is not married, it is not adultery. It can be fornication, or he could take this other woman to be his wife also. That's according to the law, brothers and sisters. Verse 4. But Abimelech had not come near her. He didn't touch her. And he said, Yahuwah, wilt thou slay also a righteous nation? He said that they were trying to keep the ways of Yahuwah. How did he know the ways of Yahuwah? You've heard of Melchizedek, right? That was there before Abraham came. Melchizedek practiced the law. I wonder where he got it from. Must be Yahuwah. There's so much, brothers and sisters, that we don't know. If you read the book of Jasher, you'll find that Jacob is studying with Abraham about the law. Verse 5. Didn't he say unto me, she's my sister, and she even said, he is my brother. In the integrity of my heart and innocency of my hands, have I done this? Verse 6. And the mighty one said unto him in a dream, Yea, I know that thou didst this in the integrity of thy heart, for I also withheld thee from sinning against me. Sinning against Yahuwah is committing adultery. Did you know that? Yahuwah gave these laws. You cannot take another man's wife. There's no such law about taking another woman's husband. Look it up, brothers and sisters. Therefore suffered I thee not to touch her. How did he do that? It's coming soon. Verse 7, now therefore restore the man's wife. Return. You see in the beginning of the word restore. Return the man's wife, for he is a prophet. And he shall pray for thee, and thou shalt live. And if you don't restore her, know that thou, for a surety, will die, you and all that are yours. Verse 8. Therefore Abimelech rose early in the morning. I don't blame him. Get up and get this thing done, man. And he called his servants and told all these things in their ears. And the men were so afraid. Verse 9. Then Abimelech called Abraham and said unto him, What have you done to us, man? How have I offended you, that you have brought on me and the kingdom this great transgression of the law? Thou hast done deeds unto me that ought not to be done. Verse 10. And Abimelech said unto Abraham, What were you thinking, that you have done this thing to me? Verse 11. Here's the reply. And Abraham said, Because I thought, surely the fear of the mighty one is not in this place. What was Abraham saying? He said, I didn't think that you would follow the ways of my mighty one. I thought that you would slay me for my wife's sake. Sarah was beautiful. Every place they went, men wanted her. So he thought that they would kill him and take his wife. Verse 12. And yet, indeed, she is my sister. She is the daughter of my father, but not the daughter of my mother, and she became my wife. So he is telling the truth, correct? No, this is a lie. A lie is anything with the intent to deceive. A half-truth is still a lie, brothers and sisters. Hold it 1 second. Did you see what just happened here? Sarah lied with him. He told Sarah to take this lie every place we go. You're going to tell them that you're my sister so they won't slay me and take you as their wife. So she kept this lie going. What happened? She was taken into the household of Abimelech to be his wife. The next step was he was supposed to come and go into her. SHARAH must have been sore afraid of what would happen next, because she knew that this man Abimelech would be committing adultery, and they knew that the wages of sin was death. But she carried it out anyway. She followed the instructions of her husband. Verse 13. Here's the story in 13. And it came to pass, when the Mighty One caused me to wander from my father's house, that I said unto her, This is the kindness which thou shalt show unto me. Every place where we shall come, say of me, tell the people, he is my brother. Did she do that? Yes, she did. Okay, now look at what Abimelech did after they told him this story. Verse 14, And Abimelech took sheep and oxen and men servants and women servants and gave them unto Abraham and returned him SHARAH, his wife. Why did he give Abraham all of this stuff? Abraham just lied. Remember, Abimelech needs Abraham to pray for him so that he would not die. Verse 15, And Abimelech said, Behold, my land is before thee. Check this out, man. You can dwell wherever it pleaseth you. Verse 16, And unto Sarah he said, Behold, I have given thy brother. Look what he called him. Still he called him brother. 1,000 pieces of silver. Why didn't he give it to SHARAH? Why did he give it to Abraham? Behold, he is to thee a covering of thy eyes. Because Abraham is her covering. Why do you think that when a young man goes into a virgin, which is not espoused, and they be found, that the young man has to give the father 50 shekels of silver, because he has bypassed the covering? He didn't go to the covering and ask for permission. He bypassed that right. And unto all that are with thee, everyone who was with them, Abraham was their covering, and with all others. Thus she was reproved. Look at verse 17. So Abraham prayed unto the Mighty One, and the Mighty One healed Abimelech, and Abimelech's wife, and Abimelech's maidservants, and they bare children. Verse 18. For YAHUAH has fast closed up all the wombs of the house of Abimelech because of SHARAH, Abraham's wife. Do you see how highly favored she is? YAHUAH restrained Abimelech from going into her. What do you think happened, brothers and sisters? When is the womb closed up? When it's that time of the month, you hang that little poster on the vagina. Womb is closed for 7 days plus 1, 8 days. YAHUAH closed up all his wife's womb, the maidservant's womb, and Sarah's womb. everyone must have had that time of month at the same time. Touch not my anointed. Who's his anointed? SHARAH. And do my prophet no harm. Who's the prophet? Abraham. Now let's jump to chapter 21, verse 1. And YAHUAH visited SHARAH as he had said. Do you see that? He keeps his promises. And YAHUAH did unto SHARAH as he had spoken. He keeps his word. Verse 2. For SHARAH conceived and bare Abraham a son in his old age at the set time, the time appointed, of which the Mighty One had spoken to him. Verse 3. And Abraham called the name of his son that was born unto him, whom SHARAH bare to him, Isaac. Let me tell you a story. When I was in New York, brothers and sisters, I had a few businesses. I had plenty of money. Guess who I hung out with? The Hasidics. You know, the ones with the little curls coming down? Some of them were my best friends. We would go everywhere together. They were showing me their ways. How do you think I'm so fluent in the ways of the Jews? One of the Hasidics that I had met, his name was Yitzhak. And I asked him, I says, who does Yitzhak represent in the Bible? And he said, oh, Yitzhak is Isaac. So now I went to transliterate it myself. It's not Yitzhak, it's Yatzhak. Verse 4. And Abraham circumcised his son, Yatzhak, being 8 days old, as the Mighty One had commanded him. Brothers and sisters, do you see what's happening here? They follow instructions. Unlike us. Well, let me not say us, because I've moved so far away from this world that most people don't even want to be around me anymore. My conversation is about YAHUAH, the ways that I aspire to obtain is to keep his laws, statutes, judgments, and commandments. I know there's some of you out there that are just the same. People look at you and they just look at you as though you're something evil or wicked because you're keeping Yahuwah's ways. They don't want to be around you. When you follow the ways of YAHUAH, you become so different that people don't even know who you are. I'm outside of the matrix now. I'm looking inside of the matrix and watching people run around chasing their tails, and they don't even know. Verse 5. And Abraham was 100 years old when his son Yitzhak was born unto him. Verse 6. And SHARAH said, the Mighty One hath made me to laugh, so that all that hear this story will laugh with me. Aren't you laughing within yourself right now? I mean, it's just something happens when you know what happened before, and you see that everything that he said has come to pass. Is there anything too hard for him? Let me speak to all of those who are out there who are suffering from different ailments. When he comes to get you, your sicknesses shall be reversed. Remember, is there anything too hard for him? If he can make a woman that is 90 years old have a child, why are we worried about our little sicknesses, our cancers, and whatever we have? Verse 7, and she said, who would have said unto Abraham, only YAHUAH, that SHARAH should have given children suck? She has breast milk. Come on, 90 years old, she's producing breast milk. She's produced an egg. She carried the child for 9 months, and she delivered him. And guess what? He was healthy. You never heard anything about him being sickly. For I have borne him a son in his old age. Verse 8, and the child grew and was weaned. That means he was off the breast milk. And Abraham made a great feast the same day that YAHUAH was weaned. Verse 9, and SHARAH saw the son of Hagar the Egyptian, which she had borne unto Abraham, mocking. Here comes the problems. The child was mocking YAHUAH. Ishmael was mocking YAHUAH. You know how kids are. That's what kids do. Verse 10, a light bulb went off in SHARAH's head. Wherefore she said unto Abraham, cast out this bondwoman and her son. For the son of this bondwoman shall not be heir with my son. Indeed, for a surety, with Isaac. Do you see this? She understood something. Ishmael was the firstborn son, but he was not the son that was born of the promise, that was born of an impossible situation that YAHUAH had brought forth himself. This was YAHUAH's way. What did Sarah do? She gave her bondwoman. She went according to the traditional ways, but YAHUAH had a different plan. Do you know, brothers and sisters, that the reason that we are so messed up today because we don't have laws to govern us by? When it comes to inheritance, your inheritance is supposed to go to the firstborn son, right? When the inheritance goes to the firstborn son, that's all of the property. And he is the one who distributes the wealth between the family. Let me tell you how silly we are today. When, let's say, the mother and the father, they're dead, and they leave their property and their land and their businesses to their children, guess what the children do? They fight over it. Because there's no general head, no husbandman, no person in the lead that is supposed to be a covering for the rest of the family. So they fight over the property. They fight over their inheritance. Then they sell it. And guess what? There's nothing to leave your lineage anymore. Verse 11. And this thing, him having to cast out Hagar and his son, was grievous unto Abraham. It was grievous unto him in his sight because of his son. He loved his son Ishmael. This was another child in his old age, but YAHUAH has already gave him a promise also. Remember, by the well. Verse 12. And the mighty one said unto Abraham, don't you let it be grievous in thy sight because of this boy, and because of that Egyptian woman. In all that SHARAH have said unto thee, hearken unto her voice, for in YAHUAH shall thy seed be called. Listen what the mighty one said to Abraham. Your wife is right. Listen to what she says. Don't you see what I've done? I've caused the woman, 90 years old, to bear a son. I've strengthened your loins at 100 years old to plant the seed in her womb. This is the child of the promise. All of your seed after him shall be called, whose name? YAHUAH. Listen to her. Do you see how highly favored this woman was? She understood protocol. She knew what was happening, but something else that she knows. She knew that Ishmael was the firstborn son, but her son was a child of a miraculous event, of an impossible situation. And yet, here he is. Listen to her, Abraham. For YAHUAH shall bring forth Jacob, Yasharal, and this seed shall be called after. Everything is about seed, bloodline. If you understand what I just said, there's no such thing as a person saying that he is a convert. Can you convert to a bloodline? Verse 13. And also of the son of the bondwoman will I make a nation, because he is thy seed. Don't worry about Ishmael. I'm going to bless him also. He's going to be a great nation. He's going to have 12 sons, just like Jacob. Why? Because he came from your loins. Everything that comes from your loins is blessed because you are my prophet. Verse 14. Look what Abraham did. And he waited a week. He waited a month later. He waited 1 year. No. Righteous men don't do that. What did he do? He rose up early in the morning. This was grievous unto him, but he did it anyway, and took bread and a bottle of water, and gave it unto Hagar, putting it on her shoulder, and the child, and sent her away, and she departed, and wandered in the wilderness of Beersheba. Now let's jump to chapter 23. In conclusion, verse 1 to 2. Verse 1. And SHARAH was 127 years old. These were the years of the life of SHARAH. It's a long life. Verse 2. And SHARAH died in Kiriath Arba, the same as Hebron, in the land of Canaan. And Abraham came to mourn for SHARAH, and to weep for her. What a wonderful woman. She was obedient to Abraham in everything. You saw it for yourself, even in his deception. She called him Master. She brought forth a seed in her old age. What a wonderful woman. If you were to die today, would your husband come and weep for you? Or would it be like the Wizard of Oz? He comes to sing a song. Ding dong, the witch is dead, the wicked witch, the witch is dead. Ding dong, the wicked witch is dead. We've been destroyed here. We are so messed up, so backwards, so twisted. Our lifestyle is so ugly to the mighty one. But we're learning now. We're coming out of this deception that the Europeans have given us. This book was written for us so that we can return. We have to return to the old ways. Ladies, you have deceived yourself here in America, thinking that you're a queen. That's what the black women called themselves, queens. A queen has a king. She follows his instructions. A queen bears his seed. She doesn't have multiple baby daddies. A queen respects her king. She calls him master. The queen is honored by the mighty one. She is praised of YAHUAH. Will you be praised in that day? Or will you be destroyed? This witchcraft that America has used upon us has turned us into monsters. But we're changing our minds now. We see the error of our ways. Come back to the old ways, which is the good way, and you shall find rest for your souls. YAHUAH be with you. What is your reply? YAHUAH bless you, Brother David. Shalom.